But it's a real privilege to be here this morning, and I'm thrilled to see so many of you here in this room. I want to thank Fran Faraz most especially, and your wonderful team, because you created this conference this year. And Adelia, your opening was just so heart-opening, and everyone who's spoken so far has really touched my heart. I'm delighted to hear a college president speak so from the heart about compassion, because that's my passion these days, and that's what I came here to share with you this morning. Compassion is a universal value. Let's see if I can make it work. Oh, there we go. Compassion is a universal value, and it's found in every great spiritual teaching, as well as in secular society. It is a natural human quality. Sometimes compassion gets put in a basket with fluffy kittens and lovely angel wings, but I believe compassion is a very powerful expression of love, and love can often be anything but fluffy. Compassion and love are necessities for human life. But what is compassion? Compassion is kindness. Compassion is forgiveness, and compassion is empathy. Compassion doesn't mean that we take on the condition of another person, but that we feel connected to their experience with empathy. Compassion is expressing kindness toward another living being or toward our natural world in a way that we care for it. It means that we're willing to forgive and let go of resentment and anger and holding on to those toxic feelings. As one person says, we drink poison hoping somebody else will die. That particular process never works anything but harm for the person who is holding that pain. But compassion is looking at the other side of the story and at least being able and willing to understand. Compassion is expressed by the heart, and compassion is different than pity. Pity just feels sorry. Compassion does something about it. That, I think, is an important thing to know. Because as the president this morning spoke and Ron Lowenberg spoke, compassion requires action. Compassion isn't just about feeling these feelings, but then what do we do with them? I have a story I want to share with you this morning, and I just want to invite you to come with me for a little bit to a third grade classroom. And there's a 9-year-old boy sitting at his desk, and all of a sudden there's a puddle between his feet and the front of his pants are wet. He thinks his heart is going to stop because he cannot possibly imagine how this has happened. It's never happened before, and he knows that when the boys found out, he will never hear the end of it. And when the girls find out, they'll never speak to him again as long as he lives. The boy believes his heart is going to stop, and he puts his head down and he prays this little prayer, "Dear God, this is an emergency. I need help. 5 minutes from now, I'm dead meat." Well, he looks up from his prayer, and here comes the teacher with a look in her eyes that tells him he's been discovered. But as the teacher is walking toward him, a classmate named Susie is carrying a goldfish bowl that is filled with water. Susie trips in front of the teacher and inexplicably spills the water all over the boy's lap. The boy pretends to be angry, but all the while he's saying to himself, "Oh, thank you, Lord, oh, thank you, Lord." And all of a sudden now, instead of the boy being the object of ridicule, the little girl is the object of ridicule, and the boy is the object of sympathy. The teacher rushes him downstairs and gives him gym shorts to put on while his pants dry out, and all the children are on their hands and knees cleaning up around his desk, and the sympathy is wonderful. But as life would have it, the ridicule that would have been his has now been transferred to someone else, to Susie. She tries to help, but they tell her to get out. "You've done enough, you klutz." And finally, at the end of the day, as they are waiting for the bus, the boy walks over to Susie and whispers, "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" And Susie whispers back, "I wet my pants once too." That's compassion. It's such a sweet story, but that's compassion. Life is better when we understand, and life is better when we are understood. When we get to know another person, when we get to hear their story, when we get to share our story, when we're able to connect, when we're able to look at someone going through something difficult and rather than judging them, asking the question of what must be going on in their lives to cause this. Sometimes people will lash out at us in anger, and sometimes we want to lash back. But what I know is that the lashing back in anger is really directed more at self than it is ever at the other. And the person who lashes out at us is lashing out at self more than other. So often, self-talk causes anger in expression. And so often our compassionate answer, or simply our silence, and a real intent to just be an expression of love, quells that anger. Several years ago, a woman by the name of Karen Armstrong, a theologian and an author, had a realization when she was on a trip to Jerusalem, because it became very clear to her that so many of the wars on this planet had been caused by hatred between the major religions of the world. And being a member of the Greater Huntington Beach Interfaith Council, this is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the reasons why we have our Interfaith Council. She believed that the answer was to call for greater compassion, to bring forth a greater use of the Golden Rule. She spoke about this in a TED Talk, and she asked that a charter be created that people could agree to and sign on to pledge the use of compassion in their daily lives. She sought out some of the most eminent scholars in the world and then invited others to add in their ideas about this charter. The Charter for Compassion was born, and I would like to share it with you today. This is the charter in its complete form, but I'm going to go one paragraph at a time. The principle of compassion lies at the heart of all religious, ethical, and spiritual traditions, calling us always to treat all others as we wish to be treated ourselves. Compassion impels us to work tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of our fellow creatures, to dethrone ourselves from the center of our world and put another there, treating everybody, without exception, with absolute justice, equity, and respect. It is also necessary in both public and private life to refrain consistently and empathically from inflicting pain, to act or speak violently out of spite, chauvinism, or self-interest, to impoverish, exploit, or deny basic rights to anybody, and to incite hatred by denigrating others, even our enemies, is a denial of our common humanity. We acknowledge that we have failed to live compassionately, and that some have even increased the sum of human misery in the name of religion. We therefore call upon all men and women to restore compassion to the center of all morality and religion, to return to the ancient principle that any interpretation of Scripture that breeds violence, hatred, or disdain is illegitimate, to ensure that youth are given accurate and respectful information about other traditions, religions, and cultures, to encourage a positive appreciation of cultural and religious diversity, to cultivate an informed empathy with all the suffering of all human beings, even those regarded as enemies. We urgently need to make compassion a clear, luminous, and dynamic force in our polarized world, rooted in a principled determination to transcend selfishness. Compassion can break down political, dogmatic, ideological, and religious boundaries. Born of our deep interdependence, compassion is essential to human relationships and to a fulfilled humanity. It is the path to enlightenment and indispensable in the creation of a just economy and a global, peaceful community. This charter is on the web at www.charterforcompassion.org. You can sign on to this charter and make a pledge to practice compassion in your daily life. I have copies of the charter at the Huntington Beach Interfaith Council table in the back of the room. Please come by and pick one up. So then how do we bring more compassion to the world? Because that's really our job. And if we each practice compassion, the Dalai Lama believes that love and compassion are the two necessities to bring about peace. I totally agree with that. That if we can teach love, if we can experience love, if we can practice love, and if we can share that love, that expression of the heart with others, we can make a difference. We can apply compassion where there's pain. If you just stop for a moment and ask yourself, what am I choosing each day as a value for the way that I live my life? You're here today in this room because you resonate with the idea of a peaceful world. A world like that requires compassion. It's a world in which I must and you must remember the needs of others besides ourselves, to dethrone ourselves, as it says, and put someone else in our place. In many ways, it runs counter to the attitudes of many people who are in power today. I still stand for a vision that I have held for a long time, and that vision is a world that works for everyone. That's a big vision. I know that vision is bigger than my lifetime, but I hold to that vision. How can I practice my life in such a way that I can contribute to a world that works for everyone, not just for certain people? Not just for certain people in certain countries, or certain people who talk like me or look like me, or certain people who are above a certain socioeconomic level, but for everyone. For the person who's making less than $1 a day today and has no food security, no water security, no shelter, as much as it does for the billionaire that just bought another yacht. It needs to work for all of us. And we can find ways to express compassion, to be actively compassionate each and every day. We can find ways to practice those random acts of kindness every day. Carl Santa Anna said it. It begins with you. I should have had that slide up here. And you can even pass out free hugs. That's another thing I think is fun to do. Carl Santa Anna said, the most valuable possession you can own is an open heart, and the most powerful weapon you can use is to be an instrument of peace. As I said, the Dalai Lama said in so many of his talks that compassion is the pathway to peace and that compassion is necessary for human survival. So to be a powerful weapon is to be an instrument of peace. How do you do that? We're being called to active compassion these days. I think a lot of the things that we're seeing in the news right now, a lot of the things that we're seeing going on in our own country that are causing us to say, wait, that's not right, are also calling us to say, what can I do that is right? How can I bring about change? And change these days has to come from us, from the grassroots up. It can't come the other way. It hasn't worked. It isn't working. It has to come through us. So we're being called to this. So how do we live a more compassionate life? I'd suggest reading that charter every day and asking the question, what is it that I would want for myself? How do I want others to treat me? Someone said this morning, compassion has to start with compassion for ourselves. I agree with that. It's so simple, but we often get it turned around. We often don't treat ourselves very well, and therefore we don't always treat others very well either. There is a saying that others treat us the way we treat ourselves. So it has to start by being more compassionate with yourself. And then begin by asking, how can I express more kindness in my life, to myself and to others? Often you're told to always do for others, forgetting that part about also taking care of yourself. Just like on the airplane, you put the oxygen mask on your face before you put it on your child's face. Why? So that your cup is full, so that you can breathe, so that you can be one who can give to another. So how do you go out in the world today and express kindness? Can you shut out all that fear-based and strident noise that we get from the media? Can you find a time each day to just be quiet and reflect on peace? Can you pay more attention to those around you and be willing to open a door? Or as our lovely Sami spoke about this morning, find simple ways to help other people. Say a kind word, offer support, take a meal for a shut-in, offer a hug. You can be a pebble dropping in a pond that would allow you to send waves of kindness out all around you. My daughter had an experience yesterday. We were over at the coffee shop and she needed to use the restroom. She ran next door to the Sunny's coffee shop And when she walked in, to her surprise, there was a sign on the bathroom door that said, "This restroom is for the use of," and you know what usually comes after that, customers only, right? This one said, "Anyone who needs to use it." Compassion, that's compassion. Huh, yeah, so I don't know how the food is over there, but they have a nice welcoming bathroom. So what if you started a compassion revolution? And what if this campus became a compassionate campus? In fact, this today is the start of a process like that right now. And what if the city you lived in declared itself a compassionate city? In fact, it is. Huntington Beach is the first city in Orange County to sign the Charter for Compassion and pledge to apply compassion in policymaking. We have a Compassionate City program right here. And I want to invite the person that made that possible to come up here, our former mayor and current city councilwoman, Connie Boardman, who I took to breakfast one day and said, "Do you think we could make this happen?" And she said, "Yes," and we did. And last August, we signed that charter. And also, what if you could get involved in international games where the only qualifications were to work in collaboration and co-opetition with other people to create compassionate actions of kindness and service? And you can, because the Compassion Games are coming in September, and more information is available at our table after the talk. But I'd now like to ask Connie Boardman to share with you.
Thank you, Peggy, and good morning, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this morning. First of all, if you're attending this event from out of town on behalf of the Huntington Beach City Council, welcome to Huntington Beach. And for those of you who are our residents, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and devoting it to such an important cause of peace. I also need to mention that one of our council members is here with us this morning. Mayor Pro Tem Joe Shaw is with us. And we also have former Mayor Ralph Bauer with us this morning. What I'd really like to focus on is compassionate Huntington Beach. I know we are a city full of compassionate people and compassionate organizations. That's why when Peggy approached me about the city becoming a city of compassion, I quickly agreed. I see this program as a way to highlight the good works that hundreds of people and organizations already do in our community. We have formed a Compassionate Huntington Beach Committee, which is focused on acts of compassion demonstrated through acts of service. Peggy is right. Compassion is action. So I want to share with you briefly how you can participate in these acts of compassion. Next Sunday, April 26th, Saturday, April 26th, the Huntington Beach Interfaith Council is sponsoring a day of service. These flyers are in the back of the room and has information on it about how you can convert your compassion into action for a day and helping in a whole host of different ways. There's over 50 projects that you can get involved with, and already about 1,000 people have signed up to help. So please visit the table in the back, and if you forget, just visit the city's website, click on the Residents tab, and this will appear for you. Or you can just Google Compassion Day of Service, April 26th. The committee is also working on our participation in the Compassion Games, which will be from September 11th to the 21st, and we're organizing service projects throughout the community. So if you or you belong to an organization you think would want to participate, please consider attending our next meeting, which is this coming Wednesday at the Central Library on Golden West and Talbert at 7 p.m. in Room B. This is a way to take your compassion and turn it into action. To keep up with what the Compassionate Cities program is doing, please like our Facebook page. We'll be posting meeting dates and activities on there, so please join us on Facebook. I appreciate being able to bring you this information this morning because I can't think of any group of people who would be more interested in making Huntington Beach a more compassionate place than people who are dedicated to peace. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Connie. So I invite you to be like a pebble in the pond. And when you come back to visit the table, please pick up a pebble back there to remind yourself to bring compassion wherever you go, to be like that pebble in a pond. And here are the websites, two of the websites, our Facebook page and the Charter for Compassion, that you can reach. I thank you so much for this opportunity this morning. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this day of peace. I know I will. Blessings. Namaste.